All right, let's jump right in. We're going to explore an idea today that might just change how you see, well, everything. It's about shifting from a life that just kind of happens to you to one you consciously create. And we're going to use this really beautiful, powerful metaphor to do it, the idea of the mind as a garden.
So let's start with this question. Just think about it for a second. What if your mind is a garden? I mean, what if everything you think, everything you feel, all your beliefs, what if they're all just things growing in this inner landscape? It's like you've been given this plot of land, but maybe you haven't really been tending to it.
You know, for most of our lives, that's exactly what happens. The garden is kind of left to its own devices. Think about it. Seeds are just blown in on the wind. It could be a random comment from a parent, some pressure from society, or just something that happened by chance. And these seeds, they land, they take root, and they start to grow, all without us ever really giving them permission.
So what starts growing in that untended garden? Well, you get these stubborn weeds, these tangled vines of stories. You know the ones. The narratives we tell ourselves that over time start to feel like absolute truths. Things like, I'm not good at this, aren't just thoughts. They're like plants that grow so thick they block out the sun, literally shaping what you think is possible for yourself.
But, and this is so important, these are not facts. They're just stories. It's wild, but a part of our brain literally acts like a storyteller 24/7. It takes scattered bits of information and weaves them into a story that makes sense. It's a survival mechanism, right? But the problem is, sometimes that story we build to feel safe, it ends up becoming a cage.
So let's just pause for a second here. Seriously, if your mind is a garden, what's been growing in there? What are the weeds you see all the time? What are those tangled vines? You don't have to do anything about it yet. Just noticing them, that's the first, most powerful step. In that moment you take that first honest look, that's when the whole game changes. It's like, for the first time, the plant realizes it's not just a plant. It can actually be the gardener. This is where the gardener awakens.
Now, this whole awakening thing, it's usually not some big, dramatic explosion. It's more like a quiet little ping in your mind, a tiny crack in the reality you've always known. It's that feeling you get, that cognitive dissonance, when something you've been told your whole life just doesn't line up with what you're actually seeing and feeling for yourself.
And that little crack, it can lead to one of the bravest things a person can ever say. You know what? I don't have the map. I don't know the way. But I'm willing to stand right here in this totally new place and just see what happens. It's a huge shift, right? From needing a map somebody else drew to being brave enough to explore the territory for yourself. It's leaving certainty behind for pure curiosity. And this is the core difference, right here. The map, that's the stuff we're told. It's the rules, the dogma, the nice, neat story that makes us feel safe. But the territory? Oh, that's life. That's the raw, messy, unfiltered experience of it all. It's like the shocking cold rush of a river. It's wild, it's always changing, and it almost never fits inside the neat lines of the map. Waking up means choosing to believe what you experience in the territory over what you were told on the map.
Okay, so you've decided to step off the map and into the territory. Awesome. But now what? You can't just wander around, you need some tools. This is about becoming a conscious creator, a mindful gardener. So let's talk about the tools for transformation.
It really comes down to 3 basic things. Step 1, see clearly. You gotta know what's actually growing in your garden. That's awareness. Step 2, decide actively. You have to make a choice about what stays and what goes. That's choice. And step 3, navigate wisely. Learning to tell the difference between a weed and a flower. That's discernment. But honestly, it all starts with that first step, awareness.
And here's a really interesting thought. The first, most important choice you make isn't what you're gonna grow. It's not about choosing roses over weeds. The biggest choice is simply deciding to pick up the trowel in the first place. It's that internal shift where you stop being just a part of the garden and you finally say, nope, I'm the gardener here. So, what's your number 1 tool? It's your attention. And I want you to really think about this. Attention is more than just focus. The idea here is that it's the very substance of entanglement. What you pay attention to, you become connected with, entangled with. It's like the water for your garden. Whatever you pour your attention onto, that's what grows. It's probably the most powerful, creative thing you do all day long.
Okay, so let's be real for a minute. Tending this garden, it's not always easy. Sometimes the ground is rocky, you know?
There are storms, there are dry spells. We have to learn how to work with that difficult ground. Because as it turns out, that's often where the most important stuff grows.
This brings up a powerful concept, the friction of contrast. Think about it. All the tough stuff, pain, challenges, limitations, they're not just roadblocks. They're more like sandpaper. That friction, that abrasion, it's what rubs away all the unnecessary, false, and weak parts of us. It literally polishes our core. The struggle is actually what makes us stronger.
And this isn't just some nice-sounding spiritual idea. It's a real thing in psychology called post-traumatic growth. It shows that when people go through really hard times, they don't just bounce back to where they were. That intense friction can actually force them to rebuild their entire life on a brand new, much stronger foundation.
But what if there's a problem? What if the main tool you have for seeing yourself, your own mind, is kind of broken? What if trauma or old biases have warped the mirror, so when you look at yourself, the reflection you see is all twisted and distorted?
Well, here's the thing. Even a warped mirror tells the truth. The distortion isn't random. It's actually a perfect map that points directly to the wound. It shows you exactly where you aren't free, where your perception is fractured. So that warped reflection, it's not a judgment. It's a diagnostic tool for your soul, showing you exactly where to start the healing.
All right, so after all this, the waking up, the gathering your tools, working that tough soil, what's the payoff? What's the whole point? What is the final harvest? Let's talk about the harvest of being.
The first crop, the one that's absolutely non-negotiable, is self-trust. Think of it as the root system for the entire garden. Without it, nothing else can really grow strong. When you truly trust yourself, your own perception, your own choices, you become grounded. Everything else, discernment, resilience, it all grows from that solid root of self-trust. And this leads to a really old, really powerful idea summed up in the phrase, as within, so without. It basically means that your outer reality starts to become a mirror of your inner reality. The world around you, your life circumstances, they start to reflect the garden that you've been so carefully tending on the inside. It's like a perfect feedback loop.
And what's the ultimate harvest? Get this. It's not about becoming perfect. It's about living this way so authentically that your life itself becomes, well, an invitation. You don't have to convince anyone of anything. Just by being you, you become a living, breathing example that another way is possible. You become a foothold for others.
So, here we are, right back where we started. But everything is different now, because you're not just a plant in the garden anymore. You're the gardener. The tools are right there in your hands. The soil is ready. This garden is yours. So the only real question left is, what are you going to grow?